I think there's something to be said for the state of gaming in the most recent years. Not just games development, but also games journalism and the culture surrounding gaming as a whole. As we have undoubtedly heard at this point, CD Projekt Red has been lying to fans for almost the entirety of the development for Cyberpunk 2077. The devs have been crunching for the whole of the project, not just the last few months, as the studio has claimed just a few weeks ago. With 80 to 100 hour work weeks at a minimum, and 12 to 16 hour days, with incredible levels of burnout, this style of development is less crunch and more death march, and has led to hundreds of employees coming home to barely grab a bite to eat and a wink of sleep, and come right back into work bright and early to do it all again. This is horrible for the physical and mental health of anyone, not to mention the strained or damaged interpersonal and familial relationships that also come with this cost. And what is it for, really? For a lot of people, Cyberpunk has come out as a bug-filled mess that is not worth the hype it drummed up over the last 8 years. Xbox One and PS4 owners can barely play the game at all, and PC players have hit or miss experience. I happen to be one of the lucky ones facing very few, negligible at best, problems. Metacritic scores are down, and the studio has decided to rescind the original plan and give out these bonuses anyway, no longer tied to a numbered score due to the state of the game at the moment. And the score is only high in some respects because of the pressure put upon the journalism sites and industry. As we've seen in the past from the likes of multiple game companies, the sites know they'll get blacklisted, shunned from whatever community the game fosters, and even in some capacity get set death threats, even if a part of their free-to-access public review is even slightly against the masses. So the scale of games dev has shifted over the years to this unforgiving scale. Anything below a 7 is unplayable garbage, where 7 itself is barely passable, and an 8 to 10 is at the very least an okay game. It's a mockery of journalistic integrity, but the readers don't help it in the slightest. Not to mention that these people writing for the games are putting in the 40 plus hours of time to play the game, if they get an early code at all. And besides, that time restraint and pressure to produce click-worthy content, let alone anything thoughtful. I myself have completed massive open-world games in only a few days, having gotten the review code 3, maybe 4 days before embargo is lifted, sacrificing my own time and stressing myself out to no end to simply get it all done. And on top of that, you might get lambasted by your following just because you didn't write a glowing review. It's awful on so many levels, and unfortunately, it's an endless cycle. For this, it's unfair that a game with such famously terrible conditions like Naughty Dog has won in so many categories at the Game Awards this last week. It's immoral to put something like that up on a pedestal, to glorify the end result when we could see what it was doing to the people working on it the whole time. The number and level of controversies that have come out about the game during and after development is staggering. Much like Red Dead Redemption 2 having realistically shrinking horse testicles, The Last of Us 2 was packed with unnecessary features that took too long to develop for the sake of immersion, where nobody would notice unless an article was written about it. We throw praise at these companies for producing these killer apps, which gives them the right to abuse and misuse their employees because they have apparently made one of the best games of all time and can now do no wrong. We then churn out our own content to support these companies because we need their games to give us the views to keep us afloat. So we continue to praise these companies even if the working conditions on both sides are ludicrous. And that's nothing to say about how the top execs who just get to rake in the money from all the people that are getting stepped on below them. There needs to be more fair and safe working conditions at studios around the world. CDPR may have had to pay their employees a fair overtime wage, but that's because of Polish law. The US has no real protection like that for their studios. This is just an unfortunate truth about games development and games journalism that we don't want to acknowledge. We want everything to be happy, bright, shining, and perfect. We want all of our games to get perfect scores, and we want all of our games to be good. However, that's not how this goes. And this isn't just for games like Cyberpunk or The Last of Us 2. It simply can't be. From Call of Duty to League of Legends, every game you play these days is built on the broken backs of hundreds of underpaid and underappreciated people. So I urge you to remember this the next time you want to buy a massive, overhyped AAA experience. Think of the development cost, not in money, but in humanity.